But we begin in Afghanistan, where coalition forces continue to suffer at the hands of the Taliban. And I'm delighted to say that we're joined now from Kabul by Afghan President Hamid Karzai. Mr. President, it's a great joy to see you again.
The joy is mine too, sir.
Thank you. Here's a quote from the Prime Minister last week when he was with you, and he said, "Here in this extraordinary piece of desert is where the future of the world's security in the early 21st century will be played out." Is what's happening in Afghanistan really that important?
Very much true. What Prime Minister Tony Blair said is exactly the story. If you remember, we just go back 5 years. It was the presence of terrorism in Afghanistan and their hold on Afghanistan that enabled them to go and strike us all over the world, in Afghanistan, up to New York and Europe and Bali, Indonesia, and all other places. So he is right. We have to defeat them in this part of the world in order for us all to be safe in the rest of the world.
And in fact, in that situation, we read now that compared with 5 years ago when Tony Blair, among others, was able to write off the Taliban, that in parts of the country now they are resurgent and so on. How many hardcore Taliban are there, do you think, today in Afghanistan?
It's very difficult to give you a figure of how many hardcore Taliban or of how many Taliban with arms and guns and explosives are there around killing us. But I can tell you one thing for granted, that regardless of what the number is, whether it's 100, 2, 3 or more, or into thousands, they are not a threat to Afghanistan or the way of life we have chosen, provided the international community stays with us in a manner that will enable Afghanistan to stand on its own feet.
In terms of the terror tactics, one of the worrying things recently is that some of the things that have been going on in Iraq seem to have been exported to Afghanistan, like suicide bombing.
This is a serious concern for the Afghan people. Unfortunately, we have suffered a lot because of these bombers. Some of them are really suicide bombers. Some of them are those who are cheated into being unaware of themselves and getting blown up as suicide bombers. Others are extremely sick people, elderly people, and drug addicts who have no hope for life, who are contacted by various elements and paid money for their families and then blown up. Whatever they are, all of them, all categories have cost us a lot. They've killed our children, they've killed our clergy, our mothers and families have suffered, our soldiers have suffered. It's something that we are concerned about, and us in the international community are looking into how best we can stop them.
You mentioned the word drugs there, but in drugs in another sense, we had an announcement today, which I'm sure you saw, from the UN, saying that European cities risk higher numbers of heroin overdoses as Afghanistan's record opium poppy crop floods cities with the drug. Do you think there is anything, Mr. President, you can do about the poppy harvest?
Sir David Frost, Afghanistan is a Muslim country, and Islam, in very clear words, has prohibited, banned the use or the cultivation of poppy or all other elements that cause intoxication in human beings and drives them away from themselves. Now, poppy cultivation in Afghanistan has also caused addiction in Afghanistan. Just today, in the morning, I had all the governors of all the 34 provinces of Afghanistan to instruct them that they must go and eradicate and prevent the cultivation of poppies. In this meeting, one of the provincial governors, whose province does not grow poppies at all, told me that there are at least 2,000 young people who are addicts to heroin in that province. So we do have a problem of our own as well, from addiction Heroin, poppy cultivation gives Afghanistan a terrible name. Somebody else takes the money. We get the bad name. Now, the trade of it to Europe, to European cities, is not done by Afghans. It's done by other nationals, people, the mafia, the syndicates from the rest of the world. This, whether somebody else does the trade, or we do the trade, or whoever does the trade, is not the matter. The question is clear, that poppies are hurting Afghanistan's reputation. In every meeting outside of Afghanistan, and those visitors from outside that visit me in Afghanistan, I'm told, it is embarrassing to us. It damages our economy, destroys our environment, feeds violence and terrorism. So we have to destroy poppies for the sake of Afghanistan, for the sake of us being good Muslims, and for the sake of our economy. The question is how to do it.
How long will it take you, in fact, to eradicate the growth of any poppies from Afghanistan? Is that a job for a lifetime, or a generation, or
no,
a decade?
Well, I was 4 years ago, quite naive about this. I thought we would eradicate poppies 1 year and they would not be there the next year, not thinking of the economic implications that it had, not thinking of how it is going to be dealt with in real terms. Now I'm much more realistic. I would give all of us, Afghanistan and the international community, from 5 to 10 years in order to be able to get rid of poppies. Eradication is one thing on a yearly basis. Doing away with the business of poppies in Afghanistan is another thing. And for doing away completely with this business, we must be looking at a 10-year period with considerable amount of investment in the economy of the country, in the law enforcement of the country, and work against all those who deal in it.
Thank you for that. And in terms of timing, NATO troops, 31,500, 5,000 plus from Britain. How long will you need them? Tony Blair said they'd be there as long as you needed them. How long do you think you'll need NATO troops in Afghanistan?
Afghanistan still cannot protect itself. Afghanistan still doesn't have the institutions of the army and the police in a manner that will be good enough to serve the country. The judiciary and all other state institutions need building up. That will take some time. While we are extremely sorry that young men and women from the international community are giving their lives here in Afghanistan in the fight against terror, protecting our country, it is primarily Afghan responsibility. We have to do that. And till we reach the point, we will have to be together in this war. If I told you it will take 5 years, I may prove wrong. But again, let's say it should take a few more years, definitely more than 5 years, for Afghanistan to be able to defend itself and feed itself.
And in terms of your plans, Mr. President, are you going to stand again at the next election in 2008? Do you plan to stay in power if the electorate say yes?
If the Afghan people want me, and if I feel that I have not yet delivered to the Afghan people that I should have delivered in 5 years, yes, I will. But if I feel that I have fulfilled my responsibilities, that I can be comfortable in handing over to the next generation of Afghans, then I will do that. So it depends on how things are in 2 years from now.
Mr. President, thank you so much indeed for being with us today. We could go on all day. It's a great pleasure to talk to you, and we wish you well, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine. So kind of you to call.
President Hamid